What's up, everybody? My name is Gina Bianca. I am the Global Director of Hair Color for RUSK. Today, we're going to be doing some bold color, some fast techniques, and we're going to focus on color placement while using some amazing tools from RUSK. So if you're tuning in, tell us where you're from, where you're tuning in from. Be sure to leave a comment because we are doing an amazing giveaway with everything that I'm using. Plus, we're giving away 1-year access to my mastermind group, the Network Mastermind. It's a $600 value for my private coaching community. So be sure to leave a comment, ask your questions, tell us where you're tuning in from. We have an amazing live planned with you today. So let's start by looking at our model. We have a beautiful model here, Katrina. She has gorgeous, gorgeous hair. It's like amazing. What a good model. Sometimes I get crazy models. Today I'm very blessed. I have a gorgeous model. And she wants to go a little bit lighter, but we really want to focus on bold dimension. So we want those pops of color. And we're going to talk about color placement, how to get them more chunkier, how to get them more lived in. But her look today is going to be a more lived in blonde. And I'm going to show you how to make high impact in a short amount of time. So again, if you're just tuning in, be sure to leave a comment. We have an amazing giveaway of everything that I'm using. And we also are giving away a year to my mastermind group. So write your questions. I'm happy to answer them. Once I get going, ask me anything, any of your business questions, your color questions. I'm so happy to answer those for you. So before we get started, I'm going to section her out and we're going to go over sectioning really quick and then we're going to mix up. So be sure to enter where you're tuning in from and any questions that you have about RUSK. Super happy to answer those for you. So we're going to get started and I'm going to look at her natural part. So if you could look down for me a little bit. So that's her natural part pretty much. If you ever have a hard time finding the natural part, you can always brush it back, push it forward, and it'll show you the natural part. So what I'm going to do is go in and take a mohawk section. And what you want to do is make sure that the part is somewhere in that mohawk. So if they part really far off to the side, it might be a good opportunity for a double mohawk, which costs a little bit more money, right? Because we're using more color, it's taking more time. You want to make sure you get that coverage. But for her, her part is like really pretty in the middle, not too far off to the side. If she parted over here in Arizona, I would be like, okay, we need to add another mohawk to make sure we get that coverage. Or if they flip their hair, if they're a flipper, I always say that costs extra to have that kind of versatility with your color service. So I'm going to go in and make sure I have a nice mohawk section. And this mohawk is going to veil over and cover everything. So most of our time, effort, and energy is going to go into this mohawk, okay? If you're just tuning in, thank you so much for spending your time with me here today. I'm so grateful. Time is one of our biggest, it's our biggest, most valuable, unrenewable resource. We don't get more time back. So I'm so grateful for you spending your time with me here today. Thank you Behind the Chair. Thank you BTC for letting me share my passion for hair and business with all of you. Love you guys so much. All right. So we're going to go in and take our side sections here. We're going to go from the edge of our mohawk right here to behind the ear. That's another section. And then what we're going to do is take a section down the middle here. This is pretty much how I section out everybody. Maybe one in a million I section a little bit differently, but I'm telling you, this is my favorite sectioning. I'm going to sneak here and make a little triangle section. You want to make sure it looks good. It does not have to be perfect, not like that. It looks a little wonky. So I'm going to go in and just clean it up. And we're going to make a triangle section here. And the reason we do this triangle section is because this is going to veil over the whole back of the head. This is going to veil over everything. So this is where we're going to spend more of our time. And most of this, you guys, we're going to leave this out. So we do not have to worry about most of that hair, which is going to save us a lot of time. And we talk a lot about salon-friendly color, aka fast color techniques. This is really important when we're trying to make money behind the chair. Time is money. We don't get any more time back. Super important. And I know a lot of us are artists and we want to take our time, and I have so much respect for that. However, Your guests do not want to be spending hours and hours and hours in the salon getting their hair done, especially in the summer. We find that summer is a little bit slower. So techniques like this that are fast and that give great impact are going to really help grow your business. So I'm excited. If you're just tuning in, thank you so much for being here. Be sure to leave a comment. We have an amazing giveaway that we're doing. We're giving away all of the color that I'm using, plus we're giving away a year access to my mastermind group. So leave a comment, tell us where you're from. Would love to hear it. All right, perfect. So this is the back section. We're going to go ahead, split that into two. And she's got a little wiggly hairline here. That's a technical term, wiggly. So we're going to go in and just kind of section that off slightly. And let's see, she's got a little bit of a wave here, like a cowlick, right? And this is going to be my first section. I'm starting in the front. No, I didn't make a mistake. This is the front of the hair, you guys. So thinking about color placement and where the hair falls, this is technically the front. I know that might be like, wait, what is she talking about? These 5 foils right here are what pulls through and comes through that really accentuates the money piece. So this is where we're starting, in the front. So say that to your guests, like, I'm starting in the front, and you're back here, they're like, wait, what? This is gonna make their money piece pop, and it's gonna give so much more brightness to your looks in less time, okay? So we're gonna start here, but before we get started, I wanna go over what I'm using today. So I'm using the RUSK Deep Shine Blue Lightener, the Ultimate Blonde. This is going to give us 9 levels of lift. This is a wonderful lightener. It's a blue lightener, so it does lift a little bit cooler. I'm going to be using, I think we're going to start with like 15 volume, maybe 10 volume on her hairline. You can also use RUSK's cream lightener, which is amazing for around the hairline. Today, I'm going to be using this, and we're also going to be going in and doing a low light on her. And I stayed on level. She's about a 5.5, 6. More like a 6, but I want to add a low light, so I'm using RUSK in 10. This 10-minute color is amazing. It has the nanopigment technology. Smaller color molecules are going to penetrate the hair faster, but the big difference between the RUSK 10-minute color and other brands is that it does not process too dark. So I'm going to leave it on a lot longer than 10 minutes, but I don't have to worry about it turning black. And you'll see the results later. I'll post them on my Instagram. I'll post them on RUSK's Instagram. You will see the results, okay? So I'm using 5N 6G. I did 1 ounce 5N, ½ ounce 6G. This is gonna give her like a really pretty like 5 1/4. This is gonna be really, really pretty. And it's gonna kind of go with the color that she has, like a really nice golden chocolatey low light, milk chocolate, not dark chocolate. And then for her gloss, I have the BN series. These are technically like a level 10. They're just a really pretty finishing toner. You can leave them on up to 20 minutes, and it's going to give you 25 washes. It's going to give you shine and condition. Really, really good. And then if I have to root melt her, which if you know me and you follow me and you mess with my education, you know that I do not like to root melt if I don't have to. I like to use color placement to build that depth, and only root melt if I have to. If I do, I'm going to be using the RUSK Express Gloss. This is 5-minute processing, 25 washes. So if you're going to do root melt, 5-minute process, 25 washes, okay? So all good things. We're going to be using their universal developer. You could use these in anything, which is amazing because we don't want to carry like a million different developers. Okay, so that's what I'm using. My amazing team has pre-mixed for me. So I have my lightener here. And I'm just going to go ahead and mix my developer. Are there any questions yet?
We don't have any questions, but we have people from Colorado, we have New Hampshire, Tennessee, we have California, Nova Scotia.
Wow, people from everywhere. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for leaving your comments. So I'm going to go in. I'm starting with 10 volume. And we're going to mix it until it's like a frosting. So I like to mix 1 to a little bit more than 1. You can mix all the way to 1 to 2 when you're using RUSK. So you can get a lot more bang for your buck, a lot more value. So I'm going in, mixing all of that up. It looks really good. Look how sexy. I'm obsessed. Sometimes I just like really love how color looks on camera. Like, looks so good. Me and my assistant take a lot of content and we're always growing our business on social media. So if you love social media and if you love posting and creating content, never sleep on how beautiful the color looks. It's just such good content, right? You're all business owners along with hairdressers, so I'm sure you'll appreciate that. Perfect. All right, so we'll move all this out of the way, save it for later, and let's begin. So we're gonna start, like I said, remember we're starting in the front, and if you're just tuning in, we were talking about how these back foils really come through the front and accentuate the money piece. So I bumped her up a little so I can work. And we'll begin right here. And you can weave or slice. I can kind of go over a million ways to foil with you all, but we don't have too much time. But if we don't finish the application, don't worry. I'm going to finish the application live on my Instagram at I am Gina Bianca, so you can tune in there. You could also follow me if you're not following me yet. I'm going to take my section. This is my initial section. Half of this, or whatever you decide, is what's getting left out. So if you want to go lighter, the initial section should be smaller. So the smaller your initial sections, the closer your foils are together, the less hair that's left out, the lighter it's going to be. So I'm going to do her face frame back here, and then I'm going to mix up my low light and begin the rest of the process. So we're going to go in and weave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, pinch, separate. If you have like a really, really blonde guest, you can always foil down here and go on the skin. You can also slice right at the skin too if you want a really bright, full coverage result. But today, I'm just going to do a natural weave. Perfect. And we're going to go ahead, glue that down. In the area where the neck and the shoulder is, I like to use my hand for tension back here. And I'm pushing up as I'm brushing down. Look how pretty. Looks so good. And I like to use a good amount of product. That's why I love RUSK, because the price point is so competitive and so good. Because I like to use a lot of product. I really like to saturate. So that is going to be my first section. I glued everything and just feathered up. And since I feathered, I'm just going to lock it in with a double fold. The double fold is going to protect my blend. So I'm going to close that up and move on to my next section. So my next section, I'm going to go in, pinch, separate. The more hair you leave in between, aka the bigger your initial section, the more depth and dimension will be left behind. So my sections down here, because I want that brightness around her face, the sections are going to be smaller. So I'm going to go in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, very natural weave. This is what's getting left out. See how it's not that much hair? I'm sure you can barely see it on camera. Not that much hair is being left behind, which means this is going to be really light, okay, because I'm leaving less hair behind. So I'm going to grab my foil, anchor. I'm using pretty big foil, so I'm going to pinch all the way, anchor it in, glue where I want my saturation to begin. So some people will ask me, what if I'm doing a touch-up on this? What do I do? You glue where you want your saturation to begin. So if it's grown out, you glue where you want it brought back up. So not only are you going to know how to do this technique, you know how to touch it up too. So we're going to back brush up, nice and blended. I like to be a little robotic, so I glue, keep my tension, back brush up. I don't like to go like this just because I'm not that artistic. I'm kind of robotic. I like to do it in a system because it just leaves less room for my human error. If you find that sometimes your lightener's coming up too high and you rely on a root mount, try gluing and back brushing up. I'm using the Framar Big Papa brush instead of going like this, because then you have a little bit more control about where the color starts and stops. So if you run into that challenge of always having to root mount because it's up too high, try doing it this way. But I'm sure what you're doing is amazing because you're all amazing hairdressers. So if you can learn 1 or 2 things from this live today and integrate it into what you're doing, I will be so happy. And please tag me in your work. I would love to see it.
Hey, Gina, we got a few questions for you.
Beautiful. Ask away. I'm going to continue, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a slice now. So it's going to be weave, weave, slice, slice, weave. So go ahead and ask the question, and I'll kind of, on the other side, recap what I'm doing.
Okay, so do you start with a lower developer and then increase to a higher one as you get up to the front?
Absolutely. So he or she, they asked, what kind of developer am I using when I begin? And I recommend starting with 10 to 15 volume. We really don't need a higher volume than that because these sections are super small. Also, what else is going to help us with our lift? Her shoulder, body heat. That is going to lift so much faster. So in these areas around the face and the areas where there's more body heat or if the foils are laying on top of each other, do not forget about body heat. So I'm going to be using 10 volume. That's what I'm using right now. And as you can see, I'm loading that product on. And now when I flip, it has something to stick to. So it's going to make my foiling so much faster, just these little tips and tricks. And then when I mix my next bowl, it'll be 15 volume, then 20, and then probably when we sign off, I'll use my last couple foils with 30 if needed. And sometimes I use a tiny bit of heat if I'm in a cold room. I'm not going to today. We've got these beautiful bright lights, but I never use heat directly on the lightener. Anything that's very far away, just to heat it up from a distance. I do that in my salon that's very, very cold. So if you're working under an air conditioner, if you're working in a brick building like me, that's the only time I would really use heat because I know a lot of people wonder, should I use heat? And it's just a little dangerous to do so, especially with direct heat, unless you're doing it from really far away. So I'm going in, and as you can see, I put a second foil on top to make sure that there's plenty of room to breathe. Look how beautiful. Nice and soft.
Another question for you.
Go for it.
Do you find feathering up horizontal blends better than feathering up vertical strokes?
So when you go up horizontal, it really depends on how you're placing the color. So I love that they asked this question. I'm placing the color on a slight horizontal diagonal here. It's a little bit more horizontal than diagonal. So this is going to fall like a wall of color. When I go in and I glue and blend up, especially if I'm placing it on more of a horizontal, it's going to be like a wall. If I'm placing it more vertical, it's going to fall like a stripe. If I'm placing it more diagonal, it's going to fall like a curtain, much softer. If you're worried about it looking a little bit too harsh, I recommend using a tease technique. And with tease, here's the thing. If you tease from the mids up, that's teasing for blend. That's really good to do if you want to fully saturate and just get some diffusion. If you tease from the bottom, you're going to have all this hair come back down and get dimension. So do you know why you're teasing? It's very important to consider why we're teasing and what look that we want. So I'm doing a back-to-back slice here, and then I'm going to finish with a weave, but I'm going in and teasing it just to show you all these techniques you can kind of mix and match into what you're already doing. But it's just really cool to think about, like, why am I doing that, right? So I'm just kind of anchoring that up. I'm gluing it down where I want my saturation to begin and back brushing up.
Just a heads up, your hands covering the mic a little, so the audio's a little inconsistent.
Perfect. Is that better?
Awesome.
Sound check. Just making sure y'all can hear us. Perfect.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Awesome. Sorry about that. So we're going in. Great. Now my last section here, and then we're going to skip all of this. And every time I do this in a class, everyone gets such anxiety. They're like, you're not going to color that? And if you love foiling, chances are you're an over foiler. Let me know in the comments if you're an over foiler, because I know I was and still kind of am, especially if I just start chatting away. I'll be doing like 200 foils. I'll be like, oh God, should I charge for this? I completely lost myself, right? It happens to the best of us, right? But if you're an overfoiler, leaving all of this out might freak you out a little bit, but it's okay because all the hair, the way we're placing it, this underneath and this on top, is going to cover it all. So I have my weave. Remember, I did weave, weave, slice, slice, weave. Chant it with me. Weave, weave, slice, slice, weave.
Oh, if you could move your hand from, I think the mic's on the bottom of the phone.
Okay.
Just want to make sure we can hear you.
Grab it there, maybe.
Yeah, we can hear that.
Okay, cool. Sweet.
Gina, how much lighter do you generally mix for bowl?
So the first bowl I mix is 3 scoops because I work kind of quickly with it. So I use 3 scoops usually, and I kind of blast through it. But if you want to do 2 scoops at a time, 2 ounces at a time, it's really important to kind of have standards and a system for what's included in what. So for like a half highlight, I include 2 bowls of lightener. That might include 4 scoops of lightener and however much developer to activate that lightener. So I'm going to go on my other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you're just tuning in, we did talk about you could foil here, you could foil here. The smaller these sections are, the lighter the result will be. So the less hair left in between, the lighter it will be. So I usually will do, 3 scoops to start. And then if I need another bowl, I'll mix another bowl. For her, she's got tons and tons of hair. So I'm probably going to need to mix again. So I'm going to go ahead, make sure I'm nice and neat. A little rogue hair like that can mess everything up. So just be neat. And if you see something, say something, right? If you see something, stop and fix it. So I'm going to take my next section. If there are any more questions, I'm really just repeating on the other side. So I'd love to take any more questions.
Sure. Do you stop your weave a little bit before the previous weave you did?
Yeah, so here I'm just leaving like a little bit of hair in between. So if you want to leave like a little buffer, just so they don't run into each other. But remember, I'm feathering here. So this is going to look pretty lived in. Even if I'm feathering up to the skin, like I'm not going in a harsh line. It's a very diffused line. So I'm just feathering it up. So there's going to be a base there. There's going to be a root there. And the only time I'll really go in and root melt is if they want to shift their natural base. Like if she wanted to have like a level 3 natural and have more contrast, like I would root melt her. Or if there was a mistake, a bleed mark, a slip, which still happens to me. Like it happens to the best of us, right? Like we're not perfect. Things happen. Foils might get too hot. Things happen, right? So that's when I'll root melt, but I'm typically not doing it just for fun. I like to have my placement be nice and soft and strategically place my color so I build in a root melt. So we're gluing that down, glue where I want my saturation to begin, flip. And remember, write your questions in the comments. We are giving away at RUSK everything I'm using today, plus a 1-year subscription to my mastermind group. My mastermind group is weekly business coaching calls and hundreds of hours of content for you to enjoy about hair color, business, marketing. It's amazing. And you get a free membership, 1 lucky winner who's writing in the comments. So be sure to leave a comment, a question. Do our best to answer as many as we can. Perfect. So my next section, we'll do that Tease light, but it's going to be kind of right behind it. And I'm almost in line with my last section. It's lived in color. It's organic, right? Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to go in and tease. Remember, if you tease from the mids up, you're teasing for blend and diffusion. If you're teasing from the bottom, from the mids lower, you're going to be getting a lot more depth left behind because what goes up must come down. Perfect.
Hey Gina, how do you gauge pricing structure with this technique?
So I love hourly, but I don't say I charge hourly. And there's a lot to unpack with that question. So typically my hourly rate is around $150 an hour for corrections. So typically if I'm doing a correction, I have an assistant with me. I book off a lot of time. If they let me film it for YouTube, I might charge a little bit less. But Salon Reality, if your hourly rate, just to keep it simple, is $100 an hour, and if it's less than that, that's okay. It really does depend where you're located. A lot goes into that pricing. It depends on where you're located, your reputation, your experience, your demand, your education. A lot goes into it. There's a lot to unpack. But to keep it simple for this live, what I'll say is, and I'm just going to go in and do a little weave right here. But all of that's getting left out, and you're going to love it. Perfect. So with pricing, if my price is $100 an hour, and this is going to take me 3 hours, I'm going to charge $300. Okay. But I'm not going to say, hey, it's going to take, take $100 an hour and not give them any more info. So what I'm going to do is figure out my hourly rate based on the outcome that I'm seeking. And then I'm going to package it into high value packages where the guests can see what they're getting and then the price. I'm not going to go in and leave all that room to the imagination, you know, and have them questioning, well, I don't know how much it's going to be. I want them to know how long I estimate things will take. And then always a like kind of disclaimer that says price is based on length, density, and condition of hair. Because they might need a treatment, they might need this, they might need that. So I don't want to make anything super certain, but I want to have my pricing transparent online. So it depends on your hourly rate times how long it's going to take, plus a service description so that they don't question the price. I don't want to give you bad advice when it comes to pricing, and I want to just like preface by saying that's a lot to unpack. I want to teach you more. You'll learn more in Mastermind about it, especially if you win a free membership by commenting on this live. So great question. I hope that helps. I'm going to go in and tease here. Did I do a weave or a slice? I forgot.
Weave.
I did a weave. Perfect. Thanks, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pinch, separate. I'm going to go in and anchor. What I want to show you is when you have longer hair, you could take 2 foils, anchor it up, glue where you want that saturation to begin, glue, 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 and then you can drag these foils down to make the foil a little bit longer. You can also buy longer foils, but I like to just drag them down. And someone might say, oh my gosh, you're wasting so many foils. But listen, we recycle all of our foils, and that is an option in salons. And if you're interested in about that, send me a DM on Instagram and I'll share with you how we recycle the soiled foils. Perfect. So we left all of that out. How fun. Amazing. So she's got a lot of depth back here, so I really don't need that much of a low light. I'm going to pop the low light in like up here a little bit just to leave some depth. But before I start, I'm going to go in this triangle and I'm going to take a nice, juicy horizontal section. My mentor used to say juicy and I used to cringe. I'd be like, oh, I hate when she says that. And now here I am 10 years later saying juicy. So I always giggle when I say that. So I have a nice thick section here. And remember, what is left out, like how big your section is determine what's going to be left out. So let me show you a cool stitch that you might want to add in to your placements. And for this one, I'm going to be using a pretty big foil. So these are like big Papa foils. I love these. I cut them in half, but I like the big foils for sections like this, and it just covers more ground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to pick up, skim, 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 pick up, skim, 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 pick up. And I'm going to kind of make like a makeshift W, like a foliage look. And I'm just going to tease it a little just to give me some blend, especially because I'm placing it horizontally. It is going to fall like a wall. Perfect. Oh, thank you so much. We're going to glue where we want saturation to begin. And as you can see, it's like nice chunky pieces with some baby lights in between. So I love that look, and it just gives you like kind of a cool placement, and it just breaks up the pattern of doing the same thing over and over and over. So I like kind of sliding these into certain areas and just spicing it up a little bit with something new. Because sometimes I get on autopilot with foiling, and it's fun to try new things. So I love this. It's going to give us some dimension. And it's also going to slide that baby light in. And a baby light's job is to lighten the background color. So if you're looking to kind of lighten the base, add a baby light in between. If your guest comes in and they're a level 3 and they want to be a level 10, you're going to have to go in and address that background color. So one way to do that is a baby light in between every foil. And ask your guests, like if they come in and they're brunette and you ask them, do you want to be a brunette with blonde highlights or a blonde with blonde highlights? If you have a brunette and they want to be a blonde with blonde highlights, you might want to think about adding a baby light in between because that's how they're going to become a blonde. So just knowing the purpose of a baby light is huge. So now I'm going to go in here, take my next section, still leaving some depth behind, and I'm going to do like a chunky monkey highlight. Some of you all are scared of chunky highlights, but it's okay. It's going to be all right. So I'm going to take my section and I'm going to go in and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pinch, separate. And as you can see, that is going to give us some nice dimension. And I'm using the RUSK in 10-minute color. I'm using 5N with a little bit of 6G. This is going to give her like a nice chocolate brown. Still feathering that up. What volume did you put in here? 10? Perfect. Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. 10 or 0 lift even, because she really doesn't need that much. But 10-minute color will give you amazing results in 10 minutes. And it's from that micro dye technology. The molecules, the color molecules are so tiny that they're able to penetrate the hair shaft faster. That's what makes it 10-minute color. Micropigment technology. This is not going to turn black. So it's going to stay on more than 10 minutes, but it's not going to go black, okay? So I'm just kind of feathering it in, and it's just going to give us a little bit of depth. Something for our highlight to sit next to give it a little bit of contrast. So my next section, I'm going to go across. We're like a half hour in. I hope you guys are enjoying this class. Please ask your questions. Would love to answer them. Ashley, do we have any more?
How many ounces of color is in the RUSK in 10?
3. There are 3 ounces, and the price point is amazing. We all talk about raising our prices, and we all talk about profit behind the chair, but little do we don't talk about enough how to save money on our product. And RUSK is amazing quality performance for a great price. So we're going to put in glue where we want saturation to begin. Back brush up. Using the chew foil technique to just slide it down. I guarantee you post this on a reel, people are gonna be like, oh my God, I didn't expect that second foil. Everything is constant. It's a cool way to do it. We got a little bit of product on the tease, that's okay, just pinch it out. Another foil on top, close it up. Close, looks great. My next section here, this mohawk kind of dips back a little bit, so I'm not afraid to put another low light here. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, pinch, separate. Going to anchor it in. And I'm going to go ahead and apply that low light again, back brushing up. Just accentuate this color. A lot of people go to 10-minute color for gray coverage only, but what I hope you get from this live is that you can use it for all of your lids in color techniques. You can use it to create fast, beautiful results on people. And they have gorgeous selection of shades. So like the possibilities are really endless with it, and you could do it so much faster. Buy back your time a little bit, right? You could do more in one day. Or it's just a luxury to have them in and out in a reasonable amount of time without taking hours and hours and hours. So my next section here is going to be for her money piece. And you do have the option of repeating what we did in the back. But what I'm going to do is keep it a little bit more natural for her. Do you want it to be crazy or do you want it to be more natural? Not crazy, but like.
Whatever you think is best.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to just clean up my section a little bit there. It was a little heavy on the corner. And go in. Little baby light there. If they were blonde and wanted to be really blonde, you could always foil this side of the weave. Gonna take it, pinch, anchor, nice and taut. My tension is strong. Glue where I want saturation to begin. Back brush up. Use my hand like a plate. and finish that application. So we're gonna flip and flip. Beautiful. Next section. Gonna keep them pretty close together here. Just clean it up. I am not afraid to retake the same section 100 times, even in front of a full room of people or in a class or something, because I am very diligent. And some people will ask, like, do you always count your weaves? And I do. And a funny story about this is me and my assistant, Alexandra, were filming one day. And I was doing like a whole platinum card. And I was like 2 hours into the foil. And my Apple Watch was just like, please stand up. And I was just like, oh my God, this watch has the nerve to tell me to stand up. I've been foiling for 2 hours. And Alexandra's like, I think it's because you're so relaxed. And I think it's like kind of meditative to like count your weaves. But the reason I do it is to just know what I'm doing and what look that I want. So a 7 weave is more natural. 3 weaves and 5 weaves are a little chunkier, you know, just to stay consistent. And just like one of the things that I do. I wonder, does anyone else count their weaves? Let me know in the comments if you do.
Hey Gina, do you have any tips on the front hairline, or do you always do vertical back?
So I like to do it like this. I would be lying if I told you that I did it any other way. Like I really am like a creature of habit. I go like this, and what I'll do is I'll follow the hairline. Like if they have like a recession or a dip in their hairline, sometimes I'll put a mini mohawk right here and go horizontal, picking up at the hairline. But typically I go back like this just so I can have that control going back. And I like to feather at the hairline because I want it to be softer. So I usually will feather at the hairline. And I'm going weave, weave, weave. And because I'm placing it vertically, this is going to pop. Vertical placement pops so much. So it's falling like a straight line. So it is going to give her that bold dimension. But we'll talk a little bit more of that shortly when I get up through the top. So we're going to go in, close that foil. I'm going to do one more foil here, and then we'll flip to the other side. This is another great time if there are any questions. I'm going to go in and just do one more weave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pinch, separate. Pinch. Anchor, nice and tight. Gorgeous. I don't really need the low light here. She's nice and deep. Like her hair is nice and dark back here. It's not like crazy dark, but I don't really need to go in and add a low light in between or do anything. She already has that depth. So I'm going to save the low light for the top. Beautiful. Back brush up. Still using the RUSK Deep Shine Lightener, the Ultimate Blonde. They have a few different options. The white lightener is ammonia-free. The blue lightener is 9 levels. And the cream lightener lifts up to 7 levels, very gentle. And I love to use it at the hairline. Today I'm using the Ultimate Blonde, the blue powder one. I'm going to leave this out. Don't have a panic attack, okay? Well, maybe I'll do one, okay? Because, you know, we're here. So I'm going to go at a horizontal diagonal because I want a lot of coverage. Because horizontal falls like a wall. Diagonal makes it a little bit softer. So I'm going to just take a section here, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Pinch, separate. It's going to fall really pretty, like some highlights here. Instead of doing a million, I'm just going to go in and do a few thicker pieces. You can tease this if you want to. Totally up to you. Glue where you want your saturation to begin. Back brush up to give it like a balayage look without the warmth because we're using foils. If you feather up, you might get a tiny bit of warmth because you're not saturating fully, but that's okay. If your guest has permanent color on their hair, feathering might not be ideal for them because it is going to be very warm if they have dark permanent color. So what I would recommend is teasing it and fully saturating, or fully saturating and melting down if you were nervous about having excess warmth in there. So you're going to go in. just for fun, I'm going to go in and put a low light. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pinch, separate, pinch. Going to anchor that in, and I'm going to go in and feather in my low light. If your guest wanted 2 different blondes, you could always use the high lift. The 10-minute color has a gorgeous high lift ash. You can get beautiful lift and tone in 10 minutes with RUSK 10-minute color. It was so nice. I used it on like a level 5 guest. It was so pretty. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how pretty this came out, and I didn't have to use any lightener. So far we have one side done and the full back, and it's been 40 minutes. I did talk for like 10 minutes so you could see how fast this application is, because we're leaving out so much. So we're probably going to get this side done and her money piece, and then we're going to finish the rest on my Instagram live. So if you want to see how I do the top, be sure to check out my live shortly. We'll go live right on there as soon as we're done. And then we'll announce the giveaway winner, and we'll answer as many questions through content as we can after this. And I want to thank you all so much again for spending your time with me. I have time for a few more questions if there are any.
Yeah, I got a few.
Awesome.
If Katrina had come in with balayage before with lighter ends, would you have added more low lights?
So you totally can. It depends on the look that she wants. If you wanted to add that depth back in, absolutely. You could add more, and you can do it with the 10-minute color. So yes, if she had lighter ends and wanted to break it up, I would totally add more. Great question.
Awesome. What color is the low light again?
The color is 5N, 1 ounce 5N, 1/2 ounce 6G with 10 volume, cream developer.
And how do these places work on curly girls?
I love it. So I love curly hair so much. My thought behind curly hair is the curls at times can overpower the color, and it's hard to see. So I recommend placing a lot of your color more like on a vertical so that you can really see the dimension in the hair. Sometimes if you place it too softly, you can't see the color. So I would say back-to-back foils, vertical foils. Oh my gosh, she's so high up. I forgot I lifted her so high. Just casually working out here too. Oh, it's so much better. Got to listen to your body, right? But I would say placing on a vertical, placing back to back. And for your curly girls, I would really look at like, what do they want to have done? So if they want to lighten the background color and they want to go lighter, like from a brunette to a blonde with blonde highlights, you can go in and do a baby light in between and lighten their background color. So I think hair texture, it's just fabric. It's just a different approach, but it's still the same. It's still hair. So just thinking about your color placement and really mastering that color placement so that you know how you place the color, what it's going to look like, and why you're doing it like that is going to make you the strongest colorist that you can be. For me, that's when I really broke through a lot of fear behind the chair, when I really started to take into consideration color placement. How is the hair going to fall? And don't forget, you could always preview. So let's look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, pinch separate. I could always drop it and preview and see what it's going to look like. So don't be afraid to drop it and look. What I used to do is I found a technique that looked really good, and then I just did the same technique on everybody until I learned a new technique. And now I can really like customize the placement for the guests based on the picture they show me by taking into consideration their color placement. So that's going to be my last weaver on the hairline. As you can see, I'm feathering up. It'll be nice and soft. We'll do a nice hairline shot after so you guys can see how soft it looks. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're really cruising here. Going to take our next section, horizontal, diagonal. Remember, it's going to be a little chunkier, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pinch separate. You can always tease it here. I'll tease this one so you can see. Pinch. We're going to take 2 foils because this hair is really long. Glue where we want our saturation to begin. Back brush up.
gorgeous. We don't have to spend too much time blending because our technique does the work for us. We don't have to spend all day on it. We could impact so many more people by making our looks a little bit faster. And, you know, not to bring a Debbie Downer to the conversation, but there's a lot of talk about the recession being at our footsteps. And you know what? For your guests who it's not quite in their budget to do a full transformation, coming up with these mini services that have high valuable impact, they're not going to leave you. They're not going to cut you out of their budget because you created something for them. So thinking about applications that are time sensitive, but still give a great amount of impact. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. Did I do 3? I think I did 3. 1, 2, 3. Pinch, separate, pinch. Beautiful. So any last questions, please feel free to ask them. And before we sign off, I'm not leaving yet. Don't leave because I want to show you this top section. And then we're going to finish it on Instagram. But we're going to go in, add these low lights. And I want to just show you like an aha moment in the top section. So we're going in, closing it up. Really fast application. We've been at it like 25, 30 minutes. That's all going to veil over. Her natural is still there. Looks beautiful. So I'm going to go in and do her money piece. But I want you to think about something. So we're going to be placing the foils vertically. And I always ask people, do you foil vertically every single day? And a lot of people are just like, no. Like they don't foil vertically. And when they think of foiling vertically, they think of going like this. So they think of like tilting their head and going like this in like a straight line. But what they don't realize, and let's go from your perspective here, if you were foiling her, when they're foiling like this, section by section, when we look at it, it looks horizontal, right? That looks horizontal to most people. But what we fail to consider sometimes is that when we foil horizontally, the way we see it, it falls vertically. So when your guest wants bold highlights, foiling vertically at the top, going up to their base is going to be that chunky look. But if they want bold dimension and pop, foiling vertically here, feathering, melting, all of those things, you can get that pop by foiling this way, but just adding a little bit of buffer. So what I'm going to do on her, and I hope I see you on my Instagram to finish this technique, I'm going to go in and go weave, 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 weave for her money piece. I'm going to leave a little bit out, put a low light there, and I'm going to go weave, weave, slice, weave, weave, slice. But for the slice, I'm going to do a teasy light to just leave some depth and dimension and make it nice and soft. And everything is getting feathered. So nothing is coming from her skull, getting painted on her head, nothing like that. And what that's going to do is give it soft, beautiful dimension. So it's going to be weave, weave, slice. And even though I'm not going back to back with the slices, it is going to fall vertically and give her some pop. So if you want more dimension, if you want more pop, go back to back with them. And that's going to give you more bold dimension. But no matter what, when we foil up here, if we're foiling like this, we are foiling vertically because that's the way the hair falls, okay? So let's get started up through the top. I'm going to do a few foils here, and then I'll wait for the signal to go over to Facebook. Are we good on time? Or go over to Instagram? Good? Okay, so I'll just go until y'all tell me to stop. Perfect. You have such pretty hair. Just love it. So my first section, remember, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pinch, separate, pinch. Leaving out that reserve around her hairline is going to make it so much softer. If there's no reserve there, it's a little bit harder to blend. So we're back brushing up. Beautiful. Make sure that we have all that color saturated. Back brush up. And then double fold when we feather. And close it up. Maybe tilt and turn. Perfect. I hope you guys like this front row seat. You don't know what I had to do to get this to happen. Just kidding. I really wanted you guys to be able to see. I was like, put the cell phone in my face so they could see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pinch, separate, pinch. Nice up close and personal so you feel like you're assisting me today, right over my shoulder. Look up for me. Glue where you want saturation to begin. Back brush up. Use your hand like a plate, and while you're brushing down, push up. Make sure there's plenty of product for your flip to stick to. Double fold up. Next section. Beautiful. Make sure it's nice and clean. Don't be afraid to retake your section because one hair can mess you up and slow down your processing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pinch, separate. And remember, it's going to fall vertically. That is what it's going to look like. Nice and bold. Even though it's this little weave, it's going to be bold because the way the hair falls is vertical. Anchor it in. Glue where we want our saturation to begin. Back brush up. And this is my third weave, so I'm going to do weave, 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 one more weave. And because it's a vertical placement, that is just enough of a money piece for her. But if they want a bold, thick money piece, you can always do some slices behind it. You can always go back-to-back slices. But I know my model here, she really doesn't want anything insane. She doesn't want anything too bold. And I don't know when I'm going to see her again, so I got to make sure it grows out nicely. I would say 12 weeks for this recommended maintenance is a great pre-book. And pre-booking during the consultation and really taking ownership of your books is what's going to make you profitable and busy. This is going to be my last weave for her money piece. Perfect. And then we'll do a couple low lights and highlights behind. So there's a lot of hair in that foil, so I'm going to just go ahead and overlay a foil on top. If you feel like there's a lot of hair, just go in and add that extra foil so that it doesn't squish the foil up and cause bleeding. So my next section, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a 5. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a nice big low light. Anchor it in. Glue where I want saturation to begin. Back brush up. Double fold. Next section. And I'm going to go weave, weave, slice. So here's my next section. Let me just clean it up. If you have any more questions, write them in the comments before we go.
I have one, because some of the highlights are feathered all the way up. Will clients feel like there are holes where there aren't any? Like if they style it in certain ways?
No, so if they style it where they part really far to the side, we were talking about that in the beginning of this live. If they part to the side or if they flip, I would definitely do a double mohawk to make sure that you get that coverage if they flip. So part of your consultation can be, do you flip your hair? Where do you part? And just ask them to make their part for them. So if they flip it back and they flip it side to side, then you kind of have a clue like, oh, they flip. And if I don't add color here, it's going to be a hole. So I would use your consultation as a tool and as a clue for your color placement. So for her, she has a nice part right down the middle. Pretty easy. I got lucky. But if they do the flipping and stuff like that, I always say that's extra. I always say that's like a luxury to be able to flip. So you have to add that extra mohawk, which is usually a couple of extra bowls of color or at least a couple of extra scoops. And in that situation, I would upcharge $25, $30. So I'm doing weave, weave, and then a teasy slice. I'm actually going to do weave, and my second weave is going to be the low light. So weave, weave. One of the weaves is the low light, and then teasy slice. Weave, weave, teasy slice. And the teasy slice is going to be her highlight. Forgot to mention that to y'all.
When did you switch to RUSK?
So I switched to RUSK like 3 months ago, and I've been kind of going back and forth. It's been amazing because like my goal working with a brand is to serve the hairdresser at the highest level with free education. So like free lives like this, that's free to you guys, really makes me happy because I want to be able to elevate the beauty industry. And the main reason working with a brand is to have that reach and to have that impact. And RUSK's mission with elevating the beauty industry like totally aligns with mine. Because if you've been following me a long time, you know I say that all the time. Like my mission is to really leave the industry a better place than it was when I got here and just make some kind of positive impact. And working with a brand, the main thing is that they provide so much education for you that's free. And I'm so glad that I could be a part of that. So that's the main reason I started working with them like 3 months ago, and we just made it official, and I took the job as their director of hair color because I knew I would make the biggest impact in that position. So it's been awesome. I'm really excited.
So are we.
And I love it. And it's fun doing stuff like this because like, you know, maybe you watch this live and you get an idea to improve your color placement and you're like impacting so many lives behind the chair already. Like it's just really like meaningful for me. So I'm really grateful for everyone who came on and watched. You know, I know Monday's your day off usually. So all of you who spent your time with me, I don't take it lightly. And before we go, I want to let you know, and I'm going to finish the rest of her application online, but before we go, I want to let you all know that RUSK is coming out with some amazing new products. So if you want to show them, the packaging is gorgeous. I cannot wait to put it on my shelves at the network, but it's absolutely gorgeous. And these products are going to be color safe. There's purple shampoo, and then the 2-minute mask is the hero product. You guys are going to absolutely love it to do those fast transformations behind the chair. So we're running out of time. So we're going to hop off and go to my Instagram at I am Gina Bianca. We will finish the application live, and don't worry, we'll post all the afters. Thank you, Behind the Chair. Thank you, RUSK, for letting me provide this free education. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time.